One Day Studios is based in the old Fletcher Jones Factory in Warrnambool, which was a clothing manufacturing facility with 64 shops around Australia. So it's kind of well known, and especially to locals. At the moment, we're making a little diorama of it. But I'll start with the story of Fletcher Jones back in the 1930s. So when he was growing his business, which began on horse and cart, by the 30s it was actually quite big, and he was expanding. He was building an actual factory on this site in an old quarry, and he took a trip to New York City, and in 1939 there was the World Fair. He got there in 1940, so we don't have a heap of information, but we assume that he saw it because he's come back, and in the 40s, every time he made a building, he put this model of a thing called the Trilon and Perisphere onto the building. The Trilon and Perisphere was this huge structure in the middle, a big centrepiece of the World Fair. You probably know it, it's very famous. It's in lots of pop culture references. But it was effectively a giant, tall, thin pyramid and a giant sphere, big enough to walk into. Around the interior, there was a platform, and all the people would look down on a great big model of democracy, the future of cities. It was like imagining what the world would be like in 50 years. In the whole display that year, not that Fletcher would have seen everything that was there, but he was definitely highly inspired by it. Because every time he opened a shop, he'd put this model up. So there's one on the factory here, there was one out the front, there was one on the shop in Liebig Street in Warrnambool. But in the original, you would see all these things like a car with glass panels so that you could see the motor working. And Westinghouse put out this robot called Electro the robot, one of the world's first fully functional, autonomous, real robots. So it was real, but it was simple. It didn't do much. It could say a few things which were based on vinyl records, and it could walk a little bit, and it could smoke cigarettes, because that was all the rage for robots in the 40s. So we assume that Fletcher was highly inspired by all of that. Another clue was that the residential area of Democracy City was called Pleasantville, and the gardens here at the Fletcher Jones Factory are called Pleasant Hill. So we thought we'd make a big tribute to that with Mabel and Switch and continue that, and we began to reimagine the world based on that moment where Fletcher experiences all that for the first time, and thinks about robots and thinks about the future and thinks about his business and its effect on Warrnambool and how inspiring it could all be and how innovating it can be. And Warrnambool is a really amazing place of innovation. Among other things, Warrnambool scientists have had a huge impact on genomics and on neuroscience. There's, I think, 2 Nobel Prizes for science from Warrnambool. So it's not hard to imagine a world where Fletcher's come back all inspired, got these people together and changed things. The model is made by a whole bunch of our work experience students, and in partnership with the WAVE School. So a lot of the WAVE School students have come in and made parts of this. It's a traditional kind of model basically, but we are using new technologies like laser cutters and things to do some of the details, like these little windows and things, which are all cut by laser, which I think Fletcher Jones would have been really proud of. I think he would have really enjoyed that. So if you visit the Fletcher Jones Factory today, you can still see the original model in the garden bed here, and you can now see a big, bold symbol of futurism and innovation on the horizon of Warrnambool, put there by Fletcher Jones as a tribute to the Trilon and Perisphere.